This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand Dawn in Cleveland, Ohio, and the rest of planet Earth. Welcome to another edition of Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is an artist and organizer with a background exclusively here in Ohio, but maybe he's lived in other parts of the world, and we'll talk about that. But it's my pleasure to introduce to you Ephraim Abdullah. I know that, among other things, he is very well connected with the African American Museum right here in Cleveland. I also know that he is an artist in our community. He does photography and video and other things that he will share with us as our conversation proceeds. So, Ephraim, how you doing?
Hi there. How are you? Thank you for having me on your show.
Great. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show. So, many folks know that the focus of my show is people who are making a difference in the lives of others. And as I see you moving here and there, I noticed that I also noticed that you are directly connected to what I would consider the conscious community. But before we get to all of that, just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your life growing up in Cleveland and how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah, I actually am a native of East Cleveland. It was my parents who came in with that group of conscious Black leaders who moved to East Cleveland in the 70s, in the 60s. They were the conscious of the Black community then, and East Cleveland at that time was really identified as a great suburb here of Cleveland, which still is a suburb of Cleveland. I went through the East Cleveland school system, which was predominantly Black teachers who were teaching in the school system at that time, which was great because it would help with identity and growth for a culture or to teach culture for students.
Okay. That's interesting in light of the fact that you identified a certain level of cultural consciousness and the relationship to that to East Cleveland. And I'm just wondering, as I hear you talk about that, what happened?
Well, you are looking at a people who have fought and strive to have their own independence. And Black America has always fought for their own independence, and every time they've gathered or garnered so much success, others, Confederate Americans, have came and stolen the progress from our people. It's a great symbol of this with Marcus Garvey and the works that were done through some of our leaders prior to and after him, Booker T. Washington's and people of that sort who have built great strides for our people and have given our people the ability to have independence and to make their own wealth. And what has happened time and time again, these terrorist Americans have came and stolen the wealth from our people and the progress that they have made. And they do it unaccountably, and there are no punishment or penalty for their actions when they do things like that.
Okay. So just looking at the state of East Cleveland now, it's been, I guess, I don't want to say victimized, but you know, as you look over the years through the various mayors and the so-called corruption in the city government, and then you look at the state of the city itself, I'm just reflecting on the property tax increases that they just announced within the past couple of weeks. It seems as though it's an area of Ohio that is rife for gentrification, and we're actually seeing that play out. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
So I spoke to my council person, Terry Richardson, and she's actually setting up classes to where there is a better information given on the 67% property increase, which I don't think is the property tax increase. I think is the increase of property value, 67%, which will reflect at a point somewhere on the taxation. But realistically, I have not had the actual information that comes from the county. I've spoke with my council person, and she's actually setting up classes for the constituents here in East Cleveland to get a better understanding of the value of what's taking place with the 67% increase in property value.
Right. So it's not a given that if your property value goes up 67%, that your tax will go up 67%, but you can expect an increase in your property taxes as a result of that.
Well, I believe there may be a area where the taxes are increased, but if your house is paid off and the value of it goes up 67%, there is a equity increase that may happen with your property. So like I say, I'm not sure about all the particulars directly, but I will be willing to go to these seminars she have coming up that are coming from the county. Councilwoman of Ward 4, Terry Richardson, she just wanted to make sure that people are not in the blind sight of what's actually happening or following rumors. She's going to actually have sessions for the residents to help them get a better understanding of what does this mean for the community and how will we be able to leverage our properties values from that.
Well, I think it's interesting that there might be an angle that allows people to see a benefit from a property value increase. But I'm also looking at the reality for many people who own homes who are on fixed incomes, and perhaps they've already paid off their house. They don't have any interest in moving or leaving or selling. And if their property taxes go up and their income doesn't go up to the same extent, then they could face a hardship. How would you address that dilemma?
Well, I would ask for the professionals to come and give the options and scenarios, your CPA, people who are, specialty in finances and properties, real estate, and, maybe even the forensics of, the value of things. And you should have a conversation with your professionals, because, when it comes to the asset of, real estate and, all the different tools that are available through your insurances, life insurances, this could be a game changer for people. So, to sit here and without having the true license or certifications to actually give an advice to people, I wouldn't want to be the guy who say, hey, well, take the necessary steps to align yourself with the professionals and follow your leadership. Like I said, Councilwoman Terry Richardson of Ward 4, East Cleveland, she's, I think, taken a great initiative to communicate with her constituents and as well as her leaders of the other wards in East Cleveland to take the steps that other communities would take by getting the best information and leveraging the information based on using professional advice and getting professional insight from certified and professionally licensed people about what options are available and which way you want to go with it.
Yes. Well, I would really be curious about the substance of such a meeting. You know, as I look at the map and the percentages of the property value increases in different suburbs and the city of Cleveland, I don't know what the basis of it was, but, you know, you have a place like East Cleveland and they're looking at 67% increase in property values. And then you look at another place like Bay Village or Fairview Park, and their property values only went up 27-30%. You know, it really begs the question as to how they arrived at these decisions that resulted in these percentages being presented to the public. And I also think that it does present a potential hardship to folks who don't have the resources. You know, you mentioned insurance, and I've been having conversations with a local council person who advised me that there were many people in their ward that don't even have insurance on their house. You know,
well, see, this is where the education seminars are beneficial. You know, there have been different laws that have passed as far as, you know, when you get your life insurance, that, you know, you can leverage the use of your insurance to purchase real estate and not have to face taxes at all. You know, these are different tools and products that, you know, professionals are using to actually balance, you know, the different decisions that are made through the tax departments and things of that sort. It's just, you know, you have to team up with people who really understand money and understand systems and kind of find your way through here. The interesting things you said about Bay Village, I don't think Bay Village ever had a property decrease like East Cleveland had years ago, where all the property had became dirt cheap and people lost the value of things of their investment. You know, homes were known to be worth $80,000, $100,000 went down to $30,000. So I think it's just realistically looking at what I believe I'm looking at. I think they're just returning things back to what it should have been and never should have went down to that value in the first place. But I can't say that without doing my proper research on those numbers and seeing exactly what took place when what was it, Fannie Mae or Mac, or that real estate crisis that took place. And East Cleveland was one of the communities that when the loss took place, we were on that losing end of the decrease of values, where properties were, you were able to come and buy homes or properties in East Cleveland for under $20,000. So, you know, this is something I believe as a mechanism that there's someone who understands why and how they're controlling value systems in each community. And then from there, you know, making the decisions on restating it now that there's a position of people who have an upper hand or a benefit that they can benefit from on it, because there's a migration of people moving into East Cleveland.
Yes.
That's where we can.
Yeah, I understand. And I appreciate the perspective, because there are always different sides to any issue. And I think we need to be apprised of the other sides to that. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton-Belcar Community Radio. My guest is artist and organizer Ephraim Abdullah. We'll be right back after this.
This is DJ Chris Dowles, programs and music director here at WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, a Burton-Belcar community radio station. WOVU 95.9 FM sends a big thank you to the entire staff of the St. Luke's Foundation and President and CEO Timothy Tramble for awarding WOVU 95.9 FM $25,000 to purchase the WOVU 95.9 FM mobile vehicle. On behalf of our entire team, our Executive Director, Joy Johnson, and Executive Board, we said thank you, St. Luke's Foundation, for continuing addressing social determinants of health for our people in our neighborhoods and throughout Cuyahoga County. Thank you. This message is being brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and my conversation with artist and organizer Ephraim Abdullah. We've been talking about property value increases in various parts of Cuyahoga County, the methodology of it, perhaps the psychology of it, the other ologies that relate to it. And I know we won't be able to provide all the answers, but one thing is for certain, there needs to be education about this so that everybody understands exactly what is going on. And I would also be remiss if I didn't point out that just as we have issues with illiteracy, we also have issues with financial illiteracy. And you brought up the idea of different insurances that could provide benefits to people, especially when it comes to mortgages. And just recently, I've become aware of some of those products. And as an aside, I spent 27 years in the insurance industry and I had no knowledge of those particular products. But if you know about those products, you can definitely take advantage of them. And I don't want to say avoid paying taxes, but you can get different tax benefits if you have an awareness of those rules. I will also point out that people in our country who have money have a much greater awareness of those rules, and as a result, they are in a much better position to take advantage of them. And lastly, I will mention that one of our elders in the community and also a resident of East Cleveland, Paul Hill, who runs the National Rites of Passage Institute, posted something on Facebook where he showed you this map. He showed you the percentage increases and he offered an opinion about that. We won't go into his opinion about that, but I'll just say that he did express some concerns about that as well. So you talked about growing up in East Cleveland and you talked about perhaps some of the changes that have occurred in that community. What are your thoughts about the government of the city and how things have evolved from, let's say, the 70s until where we are right now? And I'm reflecting on the mayorship of Anwar, Eric Brewer, the current mayor, and others who have been in that office.
Well, I'm going to say culture is very important here. You can't allow slaves to run the leadership of conscious Black people. You know, it will always turn out to be a bad decision for the whole of the city. You can't allow a slave to run a city. And if you have people who are slaves to old America, which is Confederate America, and they bow to those rules and they don't realize culturally the people that they are, then it's already a bad decision, you know. So when it comes to East Cleveland, there are corporations and there are terrorists inside of the FBI organizations that, you know, make decisions and push the narrative, you know, and use the news networks and all kind of influences to make negative of Black communities. This is not a guest job. This is something that we've seen perpetually year after year happening, you know. And then the access for our development isn't given the opportunity for when we as a community are looking to build or develop our resources in our community. We don't get we don't have the relationships or access that we would want to have that were used to tear us down. So it's a mechanism, like they say, it's a systemic approach to how, this thing mentally is being formed and shaped. It's all about whose frame or whose lens you're looking through and how connected you are to it. Those are the things that are destroying or deteriorating the mindset of our community, as well as, the disunity that is being pushed through social, psychological, scientific organizations. These are people who have done a severe injustice to our culture and community. And it's not a new information. This has been year after year. And at this point, the lights are on, and it's very apparent to see these organizations and the individuals that are in those organizations who have approached East Cleveland and infiltrated into the fabric of the mindset of the slaves, of the people that look like people in East Cleveland. And now it's like, oh, y'all doing it to yourself. And at some point, it is true. You are doing it to yourself in the capacity that you did not prepare and you didn't stay guarded against what they have manipulated or built and have systemically built. Booker T. Washington, man, I can't say enough about Booker T. Washington as a leader who has seen the independent empowerment that was needed for the Black culture, the Black people, because at some point, we have to come out of that system of race and just be human. I can see blacks and whites and, but even that's old. You have to realize responsibly, what do you have to do as a human to do the right thing, to make the right thing happen so that good things can continue to happen, with this terrorism going on, even with Joe Biden and and the threat that's not directly given, but indirect threat from the Confederates, Donald Trump, when he started threatening with gunplay and the ability of gunplay, Biden gotten even more quieter, Some people, once you start putting that threat out and pushing that way, it's oppression or intimidation. Either way, it has the influence to make people do negatively against their will things that they naturally or normally wouldn't do that would be beneficial for themselves. This guy right here and his terrorist tactics, he's been a terrorist all through his political career, and I don't think he's a bad person in the capacity where I dislike him. I just look at the tactics that he's using, like while he was in office, COVID killed a lot of people. On his way out of office, he killed 5 people in a riot, because he was upset that he was leaving. Now that he's coming back, 2 people done died in his rally. So death is all around him, and that's just, what he brings. He brings terrorism. And not only is he bringing terrorism, but he's bringing, a negative leadership. His leadership is at such a low rate that when you put a leader like that in front of the masses of people, the influence of people become dumber or weaker. It becomes something that's not of standard. And that's what East Cleveland's been going through with the leadership that we've gotten from what you call slaves or what they call niggers. When you got that kind of a leadership, then you get those kind of results from the people that's following the leadership. When your leaders do bad, your people do bad. So you can't put slaves in front of black people as leaders, or niggas in front of black people as leaders, because the outcome is going to be the same as what we're getting in America right now. You know, these guys work so hard to go to the football championship, and when they go to the White House, which is a natural thing, I believe, that happens, this man wanted to feed them fast food. You know, he want to put, it's like, you know, your BMW, your high octane vehicles that's for performance, you're supposed to put 92 in it. And this guy wants to put 87 in your high operating vehicle. You know, it's like, you don't understand the logistics of excellence. You cannot be the leader. Your realm of thinking is not high enough to be a leader of this America. Old America, when things were not educated and people didn't know, yeah, you could lead then because people was figuring things out, you know, even with the discrimination that NASA did to try to slow it down, you know, discrimination. Very wrong against black people. But, you know, when you look out on the street, you see black people walking around with NASA shirts. I know about discrimination because I'm the president of African House International, where astrophysicists from NASA discovered and the founder of the nonprofit that I'm the leader of. You know, I do my homework. I do my research. I'm not just guessing. I ain't the guess type. You know, you have to have education. So, you know, knowledge is king.
That's quite interesting in light of the fact that you shared with me a few weeks ago that you are Republican, and I'm just going to go back to Booker T. Washington. I would have to imagine that during that time, he probably was in alignment with the Republican Party, as were most black people. But then we had that paradigm shift that came during the 60s when you had Lyndon Johnson and you had President Kennedy, and they made all these legislative efforts to kind of create some type of rights for black people, civil rights, voting rights, so forth and so on. And then you referenced the 45th president and something that happened recently. We are moving towards our next break, but when we get back, I want to talk to you about the dilemma of being in that party and having to choose to support, if you do, someone who is quite apparently anti-black. I think it's a great thing for us to peel back the layers of the onion on, and we're going to do that when we return. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM, WOVU, Burton Belcar Community Radio. Back in a few.
Many people in our community dream of owning a home. Unfortunately, many also feel that that dream is out of reach. However, family, KeyBank is committed to changing that. KeyBank partners with a variety of mortgage programs focused on meeting the needs of borrowers, including offering down payment assistance, affordable and government loans, and solutions for first-time home buyers. A Key Community Mortgage is also a great way to help reach the goal of home ownership. It allows you to take advantage of low down payment options, and qualifying is easier than you might think. It's one more way KeyBank is supporting neighbors and neighborhoods in the communities that they proudly call home. To learn more, visit your local KeyBank branch and speak to a licensed mortgage loan officer. KeyBank and home lending products offered by KeyBank are not FDIC insured or guaranteed. Equal housing lender, NMLS number 399797.
This message has been brought to you by KeyBank and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united. Burton Belcar Community Radio.
We are WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united. United to enhance our community. United to be a beacon of hope. United to empower our community. WOVU 95.9. Our voices united.
Hi, this is Tammy Payton, the CEO and founder of Pillars to Success Incorporated. You are listening to 95.9 FM WOVU, Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and my conversation with Ephraim Abdullah, who also indicated that he is the president of Africa House International, a great establishment on the Near East Side in the Huff community, and they are doing what they can to bring culture to our community. We're having a conversation about the dilemma of being a member of the Republican Party and being, I guess, forced to consider electing a president who has been president before. And as you pointed out in your discourse, there were a number of missteps that occurred during his presidency. And here we are considering having him as president once again. And I want to also point out that this is against the backdrop of something called Project 2025, which goes in extreme ways to take away entitlements, rights, privileges of citizens, particularly those in communities of color. What are your thoughts about the candidacy of the 45th president and the current state of the party right now?
Well, last year, Robert F. Kennedy came to Cleveland. You know, I met with him, Dennis Kucinich, and John Barnes Jr. And we came over and met with Bill Scott and some other farmers, and brother who's opening up the African American community, Minister Roland Muhammad here on Superior, who's establishing the African American community on the east side here in Cleveland, the Superior Renaissance. And we spoke about, truth, The thing is, a lot of people don't really understand the decisions that come with politics. As a Republican, which I am a Republican, I'm not a Confederate, so I'm not a GOP, but I am a Republican. And a lot of people don't realize that GOP, the grand old party, is another country. That's the terrorist country that's been terrorizing America since it's been established. The Confederate Party has been the terrorist organization that has been terrorizing the world, and they hide under the blanket of America. It's a difference between the GOP, or should I say the Confederate, and what the Union was. That was what made the Civil War. And the thing was, they should have made that organization go away because of what work they've done. They've been stealing from the black community all their existence. They are the ones who've been stealing the wealth from the black community. And there's records to show it. They've lied and went through the government agencies of America and acted as normal Americans, or should I say what you would call the Union Americans, or the Republican, the real Republican of the good Americans. The Confederate Americans, the GOP, those are terrorists. And if you look at their history in this country, it will all point to the terror that was given. Most people are Christian today because they were terrorized by a cross being burnt on their yard back in the day, and Jim Crow laws. And how did you get there? It was by fear. The same way that this president is trying to make his way into the office this year. He's putting fear in people, And it's just, you have to realize, and there's no reason to realistically hate no one, just get to know people. Donald Trump is an entertainer, so he knows how to act. He knows how to do things. He knows how to move the agenda. He's got a bunch of devils with him, and it's okay. That's for them. Everyone doesn't subscribe to that. Everyone's not living that life. Some people are living an honest life. like Minister Louis Farrakhan, who's giving you the truth. And that's the culture that he's from, to tell you the truth. So, and there's a lot of people who just don't want to know the truth. So they don't like Minister Louis Farrakhan. So it's not that people are going to like you because of what you do or who you are. It's just that some people just are who they are, and it is what it is. They didn't like Jesus, and he clearly was telling the truth. So, so there's a lot of people who's not going to like Donald Trump because he tells the lie. But there's a lot of people today who's going to love him because that's the way they're living. They're living a lie. So you just have to look at things. And as a Republican, and American, my thing is I want to do the best for my party as a representation of saying I'm a part of this party. I don't believe that gentleman's leadership is the best for moving this country forward in a progressive state where the developments that have been projected for us to be a number one country and a number one producing country, I don't believe his leadership provides that for us. So I wouldn't stand with that type of leadership coming out of our party. Those are entertainers, and I see it for what it is. So do I go against the Republican value? No, the Republican value is a conservative. We want what's best, what's going to be best, what's going to make the best for the country, for the people. And that's where that goes. And it's not a gang thing where you're on this team or you're on that team. That was things that were done from the beginning, even with George Washington, when they were taking parts of the country, they were killing people who were not on the team at that time or, make a decision, and that was from the beginning of their history. That's the way that they do things, is by force. And, it is what it is.
So that brings me back to the question, because the Republican Party is supporting the tenets of Project 2025. It's not something that's necessarily tied just to the 45th president, but it's tied to a conservative agenda, and it's an extreme conservative agenda. So, and it is quite obviously anti-Black. When you talk about eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion, when you talk about banning critical race theory, and all of these things coincidentally are things that are already in progress. I mean, the Heritage Foundation, in this document that they've created, 900 pages of documentation and plans and policy, it just didn't materialize over life. As I've done research about this, the Heritage Foundation was actually created during the Nixon administration. So when Ronald Reagan was elected, they were pushing certain tenets that they saw value in, and they actually got implemented. Some of it did. At least 60% of what they crafted was implemented. So now here we are, 2024, and they're pushing the same agenda, but even to a greater extent. So I'm looking at what the Republicans are planning, and it's not just one faction of the party, it's the entire party, because the party is supporting the potential presidency of the 45th president again. So as someone who is part of the party, whether it be GOP, Confederate, or none of those things, but just a member of the party, where does that place you in terms of support for the party in the election?
Well, this is where you have a devil, and the waters are muddy. You have to have people who are conscious, hold positions of thinking people. You can't just put any kind. Slaves cannot be leaders over conscious people. And it sounds confusing because you have slaves who don't listen through knowledge when a person is speaking to them. So when a GOP, which is a different country, the Confederacy, we had to go to war with that country. You understand what I'm saying? We had a civil war, and the country was separated. You had North Dakota, South Dakota. We had already made the separation. And right now, the people are lazily thinking, and they're still thinking one America. When it's very clear, Confederate America, GOP America, they play the game. When they want something to be moved in an agenda move, they say, we all together. But when it comes down to what's really going on, those are terrorists, and they're not with you. And this is where people are blindsided at. You know, you say, oh, yeah, all the Republicans, I don't agree with this. So no, all the Republicans don't agree with it. And once I get myself in position, we need to separate these countries. That is a terrorist mind state. Confederate GOP is a terrorist mind state. Those are terrorists. And what they'll do is anything to get what they want. And this is what the people in America has not figured out yet. Those are terrorists. Look at all their behaviors. This man caused a riot that killed 5 people. He illegally stopped Barack Obama from instating Supreme Justices, and he jumped in there and ran through it. He's doing what he wants, and ain't no one holding him accountable. That's terrorism. You know, what Barack was doing was giving him a courtesy and said, well, I ain't gonna hissy fit about it. But at the same time, he should have, because he was the president at the time. You know, but at the same time, when you ain't got people pushing and standing and realizing that they're standing up against the devil, and you can't give the devil no lead way. He's going to take it and run with it. It's going to be all the way bad. You have to wake up and see who you are standing in front of. That is the devil, terrorism. And I'm not saying it in a way that he's, you know, not someone that you can't communicate with. I'm in my Kanye West voice. I love Donald Trump, but I wouldn't put him in a position of leadership over my community, my country, in that capacity, because I know the way you do things. You don't do things the right way. They was telling this man about the true science, about the environment, and he not paying attention to anything that's leading to progress. He want to go back into fossil fuels because he see where he can make some money and somebody else can make a deal off of it. He's not thinking about environment. That kind of person cannot be put in leadership. It's going to be all the way bad. That's how a pandemic happened. And his leadership wasn't effective enough to prevent it. He saw a way to make money off of it. So he let it go.
Okay, so I'm going to assume by the comments that you're making that you're not prepared to vote for him. We're in a period of uncertainty right now because it's not clear as to whether or not President Biden will actually be the person who is in the election on November 5th. And we're going to hold the jury on that with the passage of time, and we'll see what happens. But intriguing conversation. We're going to get back to it after this break. This is 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton Belcar Community Radio. I'm Vince Robinson, having a fascinating conversation with artist and organizer Ephraim Abdullah. We'll be back after this.
This is DJ Chris Dowles, programs and music director here at WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Belcar community radio station. WOVU 95.9 FM sends a big thank you to the entire staff of the St. Luke's Foundation and President and CEO Timothy Tramble for awarding WOVU 95.9 FM $25,000 to purchase the WOVU 95.9 FM mobile vehicle. On behalf of our entire team, our Executive Director, Joy Johnson, and Executive Board, we said thank you, St. Luke's Foundation, for continuing addressing social determinants of health for our people in our neighborhoods and throughout Cuyahoga County. Thank you. This message is being brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Belcar community radio station.
Hey guys, this is D. Lachey. I'm all about togetherness. Together we make the world go round. You're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
Open Door with Vince Robinson is available as a podcast on my YouTube channel. You can listen to this and previous episodes. Don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Now, back to Open Door. Welcome back to Open Door in the conversation with artist and activist Ephraim Abdullah, who is a member of the Republican Party, but has quite a dilemma as he has described the current person who is the candidate for that party. And I'm just looking at how quickly things change in the world of politics. By the time this airs, we will be on the verge of a Democratic National Convention, and there are conversations about whether or not Joseph R. Biden will be the candidate that is running the election. There's also questions about whether or not Kamala Harris might be a worthy opponent of the 45th president of the United States, who is seeking to become the 47th president of the United States. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. But you've provided some really interesting insight on the dynamic of the grand old party, the GOP, what you described as the Confederate party within this two-party system that we have in America. I'm also looking at third-party situations. Dr. Cornel West was here in Cleveland weeks ago, campaigning for president. I also know that you mentioned Robert Kennedy as a candidate who has come here to Cleveland. And ironically, we're not getting a lot of press or media information about either of these two candidates, what they stand for. But I know that much of what they stand for is in direct opposition to what both Democrats and Republicans are doing, and which brings me to another point, and that is the fact that most Black folk now are Democrats. Most Black folk have been called upon to rescue the Democrat Party when they've gotten into situations such as they did in 2008 when President Obama was elected, and in 2012 when he was reelected. It's obvious to me that the Democrat Party cannot function without us. But I think one thing that is being talked about right now is immigration and the fact that the country is being flooded with people from outside of the country as a means of neutralizing the effectiveness of the black vote, as some see it. Just so much going on right now. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I'm curious from your perspective, if it ends up being Kamala Harris who runs as president of the United States, with the alleged cognitive decline of President Biden, and also the fact that he's 81 years old, he's kind of slowing down in his movements, and he doesn't really present the image of a strong, effective leader, which I think concerns many of his colleagues within the Democrat Party. What are your thoughts about the future of the Democrat Party as an effective weapon against things like Project 2025 and the plans that Republicans are currently executing in terms of dismantling entitlements, eliminating the Department of Education, the Environmental Protection Agency, and other measures that are there in place to protect the rights of Americans?
Slaves cannot run leadership. Is that's the main thing. You put these people in position of leadership, and they're slaves. They listening to everybody else in the capacity where they don't even have a real mind to make a real decision based on culture and what's doing the right thing. You got no one who's conscious enough to stand up and be truthful. No one can fight Donald Trump because Donald Trump knows who he is. He knows he's a devil. You don't have no one who knows they're a god in the Democratic Party who's standing up saying, I want to be the leader, and they know what to do. those are mostly, all of those are slaves. They're conformed to the mindset of whatever, you know. When it comes to making decisions, they're not decision makers. So no one wants to deal with someone who's a slave. That's why no one's finding the Democratic people as popular, because they don't have direction. They're not culturally sound. Donald Trump knows his culture. He knows he's a devil. He knows his culture. He knows his people. His people know him. They're solid. They're known with direct. They're pushing it. So it looks attractive because it looks strong. He knows what he's doing, even though he's doing wrong. We ain't got nobody who stands up for truth or honesty or culture, you know, from a Democratic perspective or otherwise. The only person that we got standing up speaking truth with fire is the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Now, don't get me wrong. At a time, Barack was coming with some heat. And you know, especially when it came down to those debates he was having with those two other gentlemen, McCain, peace be upon him, and
Mitt Romney.
Mitt, there you go, Mitt Romney. You know, those, he ate them up, and it showed strength. So he was a great candidate because he showed strength. But ain't nobody else showing no strength. They ain't saying nothing true. You know, they lying. So nobody wants their leadership. They're looking at them like they ain't saying nothing right. And you just got to be honest. But as far as immigration, white America, as far as, you know, those who have the culture, the Irish, the Italians, you know, all the people of the Caucasian cultures, they've been bringing people into the country, flooding them. They ain't never stopped, you know. So all of a sudden now they want to put a highlight and push the Mexicans or the Spanish under the bus and say, no, y'all been doing it. People been coming in, white people have been coming. I've been seeing new names. I'm like, where did they come from? And they've been coming in doing business and ain't nobody saying nothing. But all of a sudden now we want to say something about immigration. But you ain't saying about say something about your immigration. Y'all been the ones benefiting from it the most. So the thing is, you just got to find the reality of where people are telling the truth and really living real life, telling a real life story, not the make-believe. You got too many people who's mentally ill, is what I'll call it. They don't tell the truth. They're not really being honest about where things come from. You know, I've heard Joe Biden says, this is not the kind of country we know better than this. When? Y'all have always had slavery, the slave trade. And ain't got right yet. You ain't gave no reparations to the blacks that y'all been stealing from. That's what you got your votes from, coming to the black people trying to appeal to us. But you didn't do nothing while you were in office in the capacity like you running for an election. Get on that election mindset and give back where you got it from. You know, even with the Arabs that come and move into our communities and they getting all the money out of our communities, they ain't showing that they're going to give any of that back. Everybody's stealing from us. And it's not that they're stealing in the capacity. Black people are giving people. We give. But even with the things that we have given, you all still have not returned. So you are fully in debt to black people on the earth. And this is how you became God's chosen people, because you give freely. You don't have that ulterior motive all the time when it comes to, you know, in the other side of the underhand. Not saying that our people are perfect. I'm just saying, hey, this is how we got here. So, you know, looking at this scenario, you got a lot of dishonest people trying to stand up in leadership for the reason why they only want their people to benefit. But the leadership of this country is identifying someone who can be a leader to the whole country, not just your people. Just like when LeBron James, this is the LeBron James against Donald Trump mindset. When LeBron James decided to come back to Cleveland, everyone benefited from it. All races, more than the black people. These businesses, the downtown was flooded. Everyone who had a business that were doing business was doing great business when LeBron came back. But the RNC came in that same year, 2016, and they were supposed to be given for all the people to benefit from, so everybody invested. But the reality is only those people from those people were the ones who benefited from coming to Cleveland. And the rest of Cleveland was left dry. And they complained about it. Now they're trying to make up and know, well, maybe something good did happen. No, it didn't. It was a loss. And that's what the numbers show. That's what the numbers is. So, it's just like, like I said, when the black man came to Cleveland, he's an entertainer, LeBron James, all of the businesses benefited from it. All the way out to Cedar Point. People was coming back. Stars was coming to Cleveland, spending money. Convention style. Donald Trump made the same promise. Didn't deliver. Danny Gilbert got this new stadium built out. Made the promise. Did he deliver? Because he was the one saying, well, when LeBron leaves, I'm going to make something. He ain't did nothing when LeBron left. He got the worst ever. Both times. When he left before and when he left this time, still didn't do nothing. So, it's just, we have to really dig into the core of what's real and stop playing the game. And no one wants to stop playing the game if they feel like they're winning. Oh, it works for me. What you complaining about? I'm complaining that you all stole my wealth from my history that we should have been benefiting from it in today. Stolen. It ain't like, this ain't welfare where someone was supposed to give us something, then we built our own wealth. The Tulsa, Oklahomas and the New Yorks and Chicagos and all the cities. All those people who went to Tuskegee Institute, even the Red Tails. You go look at the movie. It told the story. Black people have benefited you. You need to give back where you get it from. Period. Don't get all cute on me and act all sadidi like you earned something. You was given that. And this is what we were commanded to. We were commanded to give to you. God made that commandment. It's right there in Genesis 1:26. Let them have dominion over the earth. Give them power over everything. God told us to do this. So it's not about you. It's about being honest and listening to your Lord when he gives you a commandment. And that's what was commanded, for us to give. Let us make man. Let's give them dominion over everything. But that was only for a small period of time, because the next verse, 127, says, all right, that's enough for them. Now take back your earth and do for yourself. And you take back control over everything.
Well, it appears that is going to have to be the solution. We've described the issue or the problems at length, but in the final analysis, it's going to be up to you to do what needs to be done. Ephraim, I want to thank you for joining me on the program today. It's been quite insightful, and we'll be on the lookout for solutions, and we'll also be on the lookout for what's going to happen after November 25th. In parting, I would like to encourage everyone to look at what Project 2025 is. Look at the Heritage Foundation and what they've been doing over all these years, and arm yourself with information and knowledge so that you can make an informed choice when you step into the ballot box on November 5th. With that, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace.